Hey guys, in today's video, I want to go over some stuff that I came across in the new canon book, Secrets of the Sith. Now, if you don't remember, about over a year ago, I made a lot of content regarding the Secrets of the Jedi book by Inside Editions. It's essentially the same book in the inverse. However, the Secrets of the Jedi was taking the point of view of Luke Skywalker about many different characters, Jedi and Sith, whereas this book takes over the point of view of Palpatine alone, and more so just covers the Sith sort of things. Doesn't really cover his point of view of the Jedi all that much, but just, the Sith characters, Sith weapons, Sith timelines, certain parts of Star Wars in general, and his overall plan after Return of the Jedi. It goes into great detail on a lot of things, and there's some new things that it covers as well, such as the Aeon engine, which I thought was pretty cool, but also it covers some things, which brings me to this video, but also it covers some things which are very contradicting and actually changing the original story of Revenge of the Sith and his relationship even with Plagueis. So I'd really like to talk about it in this video, and before I begin, disclaimer, I'm not trying to be negative, I'm not trying to be toxic, I'm literally just talking about my point of view as a Star Wars nerd, as a Star Wars fan, and someone who loves this story. I feel like I have some things to say about this, so if you don't agree, I humbly ask you to turn away from this video. So, one of the pages is called A Dyad in the Force, and you may have heard me and Josh speak about this during the Nerd Theory podcast a few weeks ago. So essentially on this page, it talks about a dyad in the Force, which we learned about in episode 9, where two characters can interchange things in the galaxy like objects, no matter where they are. They can hear each other's thoughts, they can kind of communicate, they can touch each other almost even, or they can, in fact, and so much more. If they actually come into contact with one another, their power in the Force is so unbelievably powerful, it transcends literally everything else. So, we saw that with Kylo and Rey, we saw it when Palpatine absorbed their powers and became more powerful than he was before, which is something that was actually stated by Matt Martin on Twitter, that he actually became more powerful than he was before, ever. So what they're saying in this book, and I'm going to get to the quote in a second here, and there are a bunch of them, so this is probably going to be a bit of a long video. What they're saying is that Vader and Palpatine were going to have this sort of connection, and then it goes on to talk about Palpatine and Plagueis and things like that, so let's get into it. So, two that are one. For a millennium, the Sith have adhered to the rule of two, but this decree is said to be merely a pale imitation of its predecessor, the doctrine of the dyad. Legends claim that two beings sharing this profound connection gain access to a great number of abilities, skills beyond the grasp of even the most powerful Force wielder. Members of a dyad were believed to be capable of transferring their life force to heal others. Some could even pass physical objects through time and space in an instant. If two Sith were bonded so deeply as to transcend their physical beings, the power they could unlock together would know no limits. So okay, cool, it's kind of just explaining what the dyad is, but it goes a little bit further. Broken bonds. The dyad is an elusive connection, one that cannot be created through will alone. Now this part's pretty cool because I start talking about Plagueis. Now, mind you, the Plagueis novel by James Luceno is not canon. However, it is one of the most brilliant novels in Star Wars that I've ever read. And to me, in my mind, in my head canon, it's canon. However, it is Legends. My master, Darth Plagueis, attempted to forge such a bond with me. Though he was wise in the ways of the Force, he proved unworthy of the task. I too attempted to facilitate such a connection with my apprentice, Anakin Skywalker. Okay, so this part, like these two parts are something that never happened. This Force dyad stuff never existed when George Lucas created Star Wars. This wasn't even something that was there. You could argue that maybe Bastila and Revan had some sort of a connection, but it was never anything like this, nor did Palpatine ever talk about having a Force dyad connection or trying to force one, no pun intended, with him and Anakin, or with Plagueis trying to do that. Plagueis didn't even know what the hell a Force dyad was. He was talking about being immortal and cheating death. He didn't care about having some sort of a Force dyad bond or forging such a bond with Palpatine. So this right there, they're just completely making it up, and I really dislike when they go in there and they try to just change things from the prequels or originals by changing up the story or adding things in. I understand that they created this for episode 9 and the sequels, and that is totally cool. You gotta do your thing, go ahead and do it, but don't go and put this stuff into the originals or the prequels. It is forced and it just doesn't make any sense, and it's just not something that is the case. Yet even with the so-called chosen one at my side, the balance we shared paled against the perfection of the dyad. If the two most powerful bloodlines in the history of the galaxy, Palpatine and Skywalker, could not produce such a bond, the question remains if a dyad is possible at all. So at this point, they're just trying to fill in the gaps, in my opinion, and it just completely takes me out of the entire story of Star Wars because I just see what they're trying to do. This isn't something that was even on the table. This is something that Lucasfilm made up and Disney made up to fill in their disjointed sequel trilogy. And again, if you love the sequels, I'm happy that you do, but it was disjointed, and even the actors themselves say that. Forging the future, the doctrine of the dyad was etched into the walls of my citadel on Exegol eons ago, a constant reminder of its significance to our order. To my Sith Eternal, the dyad is not merely the stuff of ancient legend, it is the future of the Sith, the key to unlocking the full potential of the dark side. But if a new dyad is to be formed, with whom shall I share its legendary power? It is doubtful young Kylo Ren will ever prove himself. It so just goes on and starts talking about how no one will basically form a dyad with him. Maybe his granddaughter, his lost granddaughter, will someday, and she'll accept the birthright and she'll rule the galaxy by his side. But his visions have not made that clear, which is strange because Palpatine had some of the strongest Force visions in Star Wars, next to Anakin, who lost his powers after he fell to Obi-Wan on Mustafar. So then it goes on to say this: when a dyad returns once more, it shall usher in the dawn of a new era, and I will be there to claim its power in the name of the Sith. So are they talking about Rey and Kylo, like what happened in Episode 9? Or do they mean again later on, like after Episode 9? Do you think Palpatine's going to be resurrected some sort of way? So while it explains what a Force dyad is from Palpatine's point of view, and I think that's pretty cool, I really don't appreciate when they go in there and they just try to change up stuff from, like, in Revenge of the Sith, when Anakin betrays Mace Windu and then Palpatine kills him and yeets him out the window, Palpatine is saying, if we work together, we can unlock the secrets of, you know, just saving Padme and immortality. He's never talking about a Force dyad. There's no mention of a Force dyad. It's not like, if we work together, we can create a Force dyad with one another and then we can have unlimited power. It's like there was no such thing. There was a story of Plagueis and how Plagueis was able to cheat death, and how it was ironic because Plagueis couldn't save himself but could only save others. There was no talk about Plagueis trying to create a Force dyad with him and his apprentice, and if Palpatine were to create a Force dyad with Anakin, or if Anakin were to create a Force dyad with some sort of a Sith Lord, then all of a sudden he'd be able to have this power to cheat death and to save his wife. It wasn't about that. It was about saving Padme, and the way to do that was the way Plagueis did it, which was to cheat death. And as we saw and heard, when Anakin betrayed Mace Windu, Palpatine told him, if we work together, we can understand the secrets to cheat death. The secrets weren't creating a dyad. That wasn't something that George Lucas ever made or existed. And even right there where Palpatine is talking about how they can figure out the secrets of cheating death and immortality, it's essentially him saying, yeah, the jig is up, look, I really don't know how to do it, because originally he did know how to do it, and he's like, learn to use the ways of the dark side to save your wife from certain death, and use my knowledge, I beg you. It's like he was luring Anakin in, but in the end, he didn't actually know how to do it. He just kind of figured it out, or had an idea of how his master did it, but never truly did it. And then in this book, it also talks about how Palpatine learned of Force essence transfer from Plagueis' teachings in Plagueis' book. In the Plagueis novel, Plagueis ridiculed Force essence transfer. He thought it was a complete joke and didn't think it was actually immortality. So this was something, and again, I know Plagueis novel is Legends, but this is something that they're just kind of changing around. And I don't know if the person who wrote this book, or if the people who wrote this book, and I assume the story group is on this, so I feel like they would know, or they just, I guess, don't care about the Plagueis novel. I feel like they would know that Palpatine and Plagueis never really saw eye to eye on essence transfer. It wasn't true immortality, as Plagueis said. So here's the excerpt in the Plagueis novel. With a technique of even greater significance, that of essence transfer, which he had learned after acquiring and plundering the holocron of Darth and Dadu, and which involved the relocation of an individual's consciousness into another body, or, in some cases, a talisman, temple, or sarcophagus. Thus had the most powerful of the ancient Sith Lords survived death to haunt and harass those who would infiltrate their tombs. But none of this amounted to corporeal survival. Plagueis had no interest in being a lingering, disembodied presence, trapped between worlds and powerless to affect the material realm except through the actions of weak-minded beings he could goad, coax, or will into action. So, in essence, what Palpatine did with Snoke. Nor did he seek to shunt his mind into the body of another, whether an apprentice, as Bane was thought to have attempted, or some vat-grown clone. Nothing less than the immortality of his body and mind would suffice. Everlasting life. So, Plagueis was always after life in the corporeal form, in your body, not, dying and transferring into another body or anything, but literally keeping your tissue from dying and from aging, essentially. And so I feel like this book, while I really enjoyed the first one, I feel like this book is contradicting so much stuff, not just from Legends, but also canon, and changing the fact that Palpatine and Vader, or Palpatine and Anakin, were trying to create a Force dyad, and how Plagueis tried to create a Force dyad with Palpatine. I just think all of that is just trying to fill in gaps and trying to make this whole Force dyad thing super relevant so that they can create a streamlined effect and connect the sequel trilogy, which, look, I get what they're trying to do, but it just doesn't work for me. And I know for a lot of people it does not work. And this doesn't mean that, you know, the sequels are terrible and you can't like them or whatever. It just means that for people like me and fans like me, it just doesn't jive. So I really wish that they would just stick to their stuff and keep it, you know, going forwards, and not try to backtrack and be like, this is what happened here, and this is what this character was trying to do, and that's what that character was trying to do. They were trying to do this new Force dyad thing. That didn't exist, it wasn't a thing, so I want them to just go forwards and drop this whole stuff and trying to meddle with the past. The story, as George Lucas wrote, directed, and filmed the prequels and originals, needs to stay pristine, and it cannot be tampered with these books telling you that this and this and this happened actually in this time and that time. And this is one reason why I stopped covering the comics, is because they're taking so many different liberties in different sections between episodes 5 and 6, which a lot of the story elements and points are just super confusing and diluted. Doesn't feel as tangible, doesn't feel as real. And at least to me, I know there's a lot of people that still enjoy it, but I feel like they're just trying to force this down our throat, that this is what was happening. No, it can happen going forwards, but it doesn't have to happen all throughout Star Wars. You don't have to plant these little seeds in there like this was like a thing. It wasn't a thing. Anyways, that's my point of view on this. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts, and if you don't, please comment down below. Let me know what you think about it. I'd love to open a dialogue and to talk to you guys about it and have some fun with this whole thing. So hope you enjoyed this. I'll catch you in the next one. Let me know what you think about it, and until then, remember, the Force will be with you always.